Thanks for watching. I'm Margot Kinberg, and this is In the Spotlight, a closer look at a crime novel. Some crime novels don't just explore individual crimes, like some person murdering another person. They explore crime on a little bit of a broader level. What if, for example, a government commits a crime? And anyway, who determines what even is a crime? Let's take a look that touches on that sort of thing today and turn the spotlight on Yoko Ogawa's The Memory Police. The unnamed protagonist is a writer who lives on an island where she's always lived. Ever since she was a girl, the memory police have been a fact of life on that island. Older people can sometimes recall things like ferry boats that are no longer there, but gradually things have disappeared and people have forgotten them. At first, it was small things like ribbons, perfume, jewels. In fact, the narrator can remember her mother showing her a few disappeared things that she'd hidden away. But the memory police don't just make things go away. They're also determined that no one will remember those things. When they learn of someone whose memory is sharp and who doesn't want things to disappear, the memory police take that person away. That's what ultimately happened to the narrator's mother. For most people, though, a missing thing is soon forgotten and people go on with their lives. As the novel goes on, birds disappear, roses disappear, and other things go missing too. The narrator notices this, but it's not safe to speak out. Most people go along with what the memory police do. They get rid of their roses, they don't go looking for birds, they stop talking about the ferry boat, and so on. At first, the narrator goes along too, but then she realizes that people she knows and cares about are in danger. So she begins to do what she can. She briefly shelters one family and then takes an even bolder step. She and a friend build a secret room in her home to hide her editor, who can remember too much. As more and more things disappear and life gets harder and harder, the narrator does everything she can to stay alive and keep her editor safe. So, what are the elements in this book? What keeps it going? Well, as you can guess, this isn't a typical crime novel in that the definition of what counts as a crime is very difficult and to determine. It's very different to what most of us would think of. Having objects that have been disappeared is a crime. Possessing those objects. So is remembering too much or sheltering those who remember too much. So is publicly objecting to what the memory police do. You can also argue that the memory police themselves commit many crimes. They take people's property, they abduct people, and worse. So while the story doesn't explore murder and theft the way a traditional crime novel does, it does address crime. The idea of disappearing even extends to the characters. The narrator is not named, and her editor only goes by one initial, R. Her friend throughout most of the novel isn't given a name either. He's called the old man. The story is told in first-person past tense from the protagonist's point of view. It's mostly sequential, although the narrator does share a few memories. Interestingly, there are also chapters from the narrator's manuscript that are woven through the novel. They tell their own story and are written in a different font so that they can be distinguished from the main story. There's also an element of the fantastical in the novel. It's almost allegorical in that it's hard to really imagine, for example, every single ribbon disappearing or every bottle of perfume. That said, it's realistic enough that the characters face real-life crises. This is a very sad novel. Grief, for instance, is woven throughout the story. Without spoiling the novel's impact, I can say that there isn't a happy ending where everything is made right again. Readers who prefer novels where things work out will want to know this. The Memory Police tells the story of what happens when memory and objects that trigger it become a crime, and when those in charge commit crimes to maintain that public amnesia. It features a fictional island, an increasingly difficult life for everyone, and a protagonist who's trying to make sense of it all, even as she tries to stay safe. This has been In the Spotlight. I'm Margot Kimberg. Thanks for watching.